Hey guys, Josh from soccerreviewsforyou.com bringing you my review plus on-feet video of the Nike LunarEpic Flyknit runners in the Midnight Pack colorway. Now inside the box they do include an extra set of insoles. It's basically the same insole already in the shoes, but just a little bit thicker. So we'll take a closer look at this a little bit later in the video. And other than that, all you're gonna find inside the box, as you guys can see, are the shoes themselves. Now I'll say right off the bat, this is not a soccer cleat. This is not an indoor soccer shoe. This is actually a brand new running model from Nike, the LunarEpic. And the reason why I brought it in is because, as you guys can see, it definitely looks a lot like the mid-cut soccer cleats. Pretty much the first shoes from Nike to have a Flyknit upper and this mid-cut construction. It looks like kind of a combination of the Superfly 4 and the Magista Obra. I'll answer this question right off the bat because a lot of people are going to ask me, is this a shoe that I can play soccer in? And the simple answer to that question is no, I wouldn't really recommend it. Could you kick a ball in them? Sure. Could you juggle a ball in them? Sure. Would I buy these as dedicated soccer shoes? Not really, and I'll explain why in this video. So basically what we're going to do in the video is go over all the tech specs, talk about my experience with the shoe. This is a brand new pair, but I have another pair that I've actually been wearing for the last couple of days. And I have to say, it's a shoe that I'm relatively impressed with. It's not perfect, but it definitely has a lot of interesting aspects to it that, again, we're going to be pointing out in this video. So we're going to go over tech specs, take a look at the weight, because I know that's something that's important to a lot of people, as well as talk about how these things fit and feel on feet. So if you're interested in learning more, please stick around, watch the entire video. If you're interested in a pair of these for yourself, they're available as of right now in, I believe, 9 different colorways, this being one of the 9, for a retail price of $175. So they're not particularly cheap, which is kind of what you expect from a brand new kind of flagship model from Nike. But if you are interested in a pair, check out the review page on my website. That'll be the very first link down below in the description, and you'll find buy it now links for all the currently available colorways. So if you're interested in a pair, again, first link down below, go ahead and check it out. And with that being said, let's get right into the review. To start things off, let's go over all the tech specs and talk about the general fit, feel, and performance of this shoe. Now, before we get into anything specific, I want to read an exact quote from the highlight page for the LunarEpic on Nike's own website. There's nothing wrong with what they said, but when you think about it, it's kind of funny. So the quote is this: "Mid-rise Flyknit upper disappears for fantastic sensation underfoot." Now, again, there's nothing wrong with that. Basically, what they're implying is that this mid-cut shoe will essentially disappear on your foot, meaning that it's going to be very, very comfortable. But they highlight the fact that it is a mid-cut shoe and the fact that it disappears. So part of the reason why you would want to buy this, according to this particular quote, is one, for that mid-cut design that you won't actually be able to feel while you're wearing the shoe. So I just thought that was a little bit funny that you're kind of paying a premium for an aspect of a running shoe that's really never been done before, or never been done before by Nike, which is why people are really excited about it. And the main highlight feature that they're talking about is the collar here that looks really strange. You're not actually going to notice while you're wearing the shoe, which I guess you could technically get from a low-cut shoe. And that's kind of what I want to start off with as far as tech specs are concerned. Yes, this is a mid-cut shoe, but that doesn't really change the running shoe dynamic of this piece of footwear at all. It doesn't change the performance in any way. It doesn't make it better or worse. It's just an extra element that they've added on to make this unique, or more unique than it otherwise would be, and kind of get people excited. It's distinctively different looking than pretty much any other running shoe out there on the market. It kind of allows them to charge a premium as far as price is concerned, and people are excited. So in terms of kind of, I guess from a marketing standpoint, they've done a good job here, but don't buy this running shoe expecting this color to have some kind of a benefit as far as performance is concerned, because quite frankly, there's no benefit to it at all. It changes the feel ever so slightly and obviously makes for a unique look. But really, if you don't like how it looks, there's not much of a reason to buy these, I don't think. So Flyknit upper, which is pretty straightforward. This is not something that is new to Nike running at all. And it's got a Lunarlon outsole. So the combination of a Flyknit upper and a Lunarlon outsole, again, not something entirely new from Nike. Is this a standard Lunarlon outsole? No, as you guys can see, it's very, very different with kind of the laser the lasering that they've done on the shoe as far as just etching out certain parts, which is very precise and really cool. It's an interesting technology, but really in the form of the Nike Flyknit Lunar series. They're currently on the Flyknit Lunar 3, which is a very, very good shoe, by the way. You can basically get the same features, a similar general feel, minus the mid-cut design at a lower price as well. So again, this is not necessarily groundbreaking territory in terms of the elements that this shoe combines in a single package. But what you're getting here is a Flyknit upper. It's full Flyknit and it doesn't have any kind of reinforcement to it. So what you see is what you get. Nothing internally either. It's very, very soft. It's very flexible all the way through. There's a little bit of fuse right here at the heel just to give it some kind of structure and shape, which is what you would want. How does this actually compare to the soccer models, which for those that know or have worn those before, the Magista Obra, the Superfly 4, the Hypervenom Phantom 2, those are really stiff and somewhat uncomfortable at first from out of the box, especially in the heel area. You don't get that sensation with this shoe. Does it feel a little bit different from a traditional running shoe? Absolutely, but it's not something that I really struggled with as far as blisters or general discomfort is concerned. As long as you get the right size, they'll pretty much be good to go out of the box. There is a little bit of an internal heel liner on the inside. It's like a very soft kind of synthetic suede material just at the base to keep your heel kind of more locked in place. But like I said, for the most part, discomfort not an issue. It really does feel kind of like a sock on your foot. You do have flywire reinforcement running through the middle, which basically acts as your placeholders for the actual laces. So that runs from the base of the sole, holds the laces in place, and then of course when you pull on those laces, which are quite chunky by the way, it pulls on those cables, locks everything in place, and you get that nice secure sensation through the midfoot, although it's not super tight, which I really want to stress that this is a running shoe, not a training model, and especially not a shoe that you actually want to play soccer in. Aside from this slight amount of reinforcement through the midfoot, this shoe doesn't really offer much in the way of stability and very little in the way of traction. The forefoot area is pretty much just straight up Flyknit with a little bit of glue reinforcement in terms of how they've stiffened it a little bit. But for the most part, it's got little air holes. It's completely loose and flexible, and this is a shoe that they've designed to be worn with or without socks depending on what your preferences are. I've worn them both ways, and personally I prefer wearing them with socks. I just find it a little bit more comfortable, but if you do want to wear them barefoot, you definitely can do that, and it's not uncomfortable by any means. The inside of the collar, for those that may be wondering, is pretty much just straight up Flyknit. There is a little bit of synthetic suede running down the inside, kind of covering up basically what is the only seam on the shoe. It is one piece across the top of the foot, all elasticated in the collar as well as the top of the foot. For those that are perhaps unfamiliar with the mid-cut concept, this is not going to provide any ankle support. It's not really going to provide any kind of restrictiveness as far as ankle mobility is concerned. It's pretty much just a little extension piece. Imagine it as wearing a little bit of an extended sock that happens to be attached to the rest of your shoe. Like I said, once you get used to how the shoe feels, you completely forget that it's there, as Nike's marketing would suggest. Moving on to the outsole, it is a Lunarlon outsole, and it's really, really cool in terms of it having this precision lasered out, lasered cuts, I guess is what they call it. So you can see the Lunarlon is etched out. Then they have these lines etched out along both sides of the shoe. It's really cool. They don't have too much depth to them, but it's significant enough. It's not something that we've really ever seen before, and it's very, very flexible. Basically what this is going to do is allow the foam to compress, I guess, more significantly than it otherwise would be able to if it was just completely solid. It just allows it to be more flexible than when it needs to be. It allows it to compress a little bit more evenly, and it just makes for a very, very smooth ride when you're running. It's a significant amount of cushioning though. These are fairly high off the ground, so if you prefer something that is a little bit more low profile, you may not like how these feel, but if you like that significant amount of underfoot cushioning, you definitely get that from this particular shoe. It is kind of a more traditional running shoe layout with a 10mm offset, which as you guys can see on the bottom, it does have that same kind of laser cut design in terms of these targeted, I guess, rounded out pods, if you want to call it that. You have a pod right here at the heel, and then 4 in the forefoot and toe area, with basically hollowed out areas or cored out areas around just to save any kind of weight. No rubber on the bottom of this shoe. It's pretty much just straight up foam. So as far as traction is concerned, it's perfectly suitable for running and jogging and basically doing anything in a straight line at a consistent pace. But if you want to sprint in these, if you want to make any kind of quick cuts, change of direction, play soccer, for example, you're just not going to have any traction at all. The shoe's going to get torn up really quickly, and there's not much stability provided by the upper either. So I would say that it's, for the most part, straight up unsafe to do any kind of quick movements and quick changes of direction in this particular shoe. But again, that's not what it's intended for. This is a running shoe by design, and that's how it should be used. It's cool that it has this lasered out part where, again, you can see that the foam kind of disperses and stretches as it needs to as your foot lands on the ground and bends in whichever direction. It's a really, really cool system. Is it super noticeable when you're actually wearing the shoes? I would argue no, but it does have a particularly smooth ride, I will say that. Again, if you like a significant amount of underfoot cushioning from your running shoes. The insole situation, they include two sets. This is the set that's in the shoes. You can see that it does say 10mm offset, which is what this shoe has. Again, pretty standard for a pair of running shoes, which, if you don't know what an offset is, basically that means that your heel sits 10mm higher than your forefoot, which again isn't super low profile. It's kind of standard running shoe layout, which you're going to find a regular running shoe is going to be anywhere between about 10 and 13mm as far as offset is concerned. And of course, you can get lower offsets in more minimal style shoes. But this is the standard insole, mesh liner on top, and it's the ortholite foam, fairly thin layer, but it feels pretty comfortable just because of how significant the Lunarlon outsole is. There's tons and tons of cushioning provided by that. This is just kind of for step-in comfort. And this is the insole that I ended up using pretty much 90% of the time. Once I actually tried the other one, I just went back to this one just because I didn't feel the need for extra cushioning. But if you do like extra cushioning, they do include that extra insole. It's a slightly different color, more of a lime green as opposed to Volt yellow, and it's still made from that ortholite foam, but you can see that it's about twice as thick, just to give you guys a side-by-side comparison there. So again, if you want extra cushioning, it's nice that they do include the extra set of insoles. That's not something you see too often with running shoes, but I guess given the premium $175 price tag, it is the least they can do. So that's pretty much it as far as tech specs and general performance. It's a very interesting shoe visually, but the actual kind of concept and combination of elements is not necessarily something that is entirely new from Nike. I like the idea of the lasering in the actual outsole, but does it actually make for a significant difference or an increase in performance? I would argue no. It's a really solid pair of running shoes, and if you want that combination of a Lunarlon outsole, a Flyknit upper, and you like the look of the mid-cut design, it's one of those runners that I can definitely recommend. In terms of weight, the LunarEpic feels nice and light on feet, but for the sake of the video, I'm going to be weighing them for you today in real time using this scale, just so we can see exactly what they weigh. Keep in mind, this is a brand new pair in a size 9.5 US. We're going to throw them on the scale, and you can see that they weigh in at 8.05 ounces, the equivalent of 229 grams. So right at that 8-ounce mark, which, like I said, is relatively lightweight for a pair of runners, especially a pair as significantly cushioned as these are. Normally with a more traditionally styled running shoe with this amount of underfoot cushioning, they tend to fall 9, 10, 11 ounces in terms of weight. So being at 8 ounces is particularly light for this style of running shoe. Although again, based on how it looks and based on how it feels, I'm not sure that it compares too well to anything else out there on the market other than maybe the Flyknit Lunar 3 from Nike, which again, does have a little bit more weight to it. So if you're looking for that type of feel in a more lightweight package, the LunarEpic is definitely a pretty solid option. As far as aesthetics go, it's an interesting design. It's certainly not for everybody. It is weird looking, and people will ask you about them when you wear them, just because it's unusual to have a mid-cut running shoe. The shoe itself fits snug. It looks like you're wearing a pair of socks attached to a really thick, kind of futuristic looking midsole with this laser etching down the side. It's a cool looking shoe, but it's also weird looking. So it's really a matter of opinion. Let me know your opinions on it down below in the comment section. But for me, I personally don't mind the look. Probably not a shoe I would wear casually, but to actually run and train in, I don't have any problems wearing this. Now, as far as this particular colorway is concerned, this is actually the Midnight Pack colorway of the LunarEpic, which is definitely the most subtle of the bunch that have been released at the launch of this shoe. It's pretty much an all black Flyknit upper with a little bit of kind of like a light gray accent within the actual Flyknit, as you guys can see. The collar itself does have a mid layer of kind of like a lime green color, so when the side stretches out, as well as the top part of the foot here, same thing with the inside of the collar, it is all lime green in color, which is a cool little detail. Black laces, black fly wire. It does have a kind of dull silver Nike swoosh on either side of the shoe. It looks like it would be reflective, but it isn't actually. For whatever reason. You have Nike LunarEpic going down the back, which also isn't reflective, but this little kind of stripe right there, that is reflective material. It's pretty much the only reflective material you're going to find on this particular colorway. As far as the midsole is concerned, it looks white on Nike's website, but it's actually kind of like a greenish tinge color. In person, I believe the official colors listed on this particular shoe are black, anthracite, voltage green, and metallic pewter. So just keep in mind that this is not technically a white midsole. It's basically a very, very, very light green, I guess is the best way to describe it. And then at the bottom, as you guys can see, there is more of that lime green color kind of in between all the targeted pods. But that's pretty much it as far as the aesthetics go. Let me know your opinions on it down below in the comment section. Do you like how these look? Why or why not? And with that being said, let's move on to the on feet portion of the video so we can get a better idea as to how these shoes fit and feel on feet. All right, so here is a look at the LunarEpics on feet. On my left foot, I have the stock black laces that come with the shoes. And on my right foot, I have a pair of lime green reflective SR4U replacement laces. If you're interested in a pair of replacement laces for yourself, the website to go to is www.sr4ulaces.com. You find a direct link to that website down below in the description of this video. Now, in terms of how these things fit and feel on feet, they are very, very comfortable from right out of the box. I know a lot of you guys watching the video on this soccer channel are gonna ask whether or not it feels like a Superfly or an Obra, especially in the heel area, and I can tell you that they don't. This really doesn't require any break-in time. The upper is super soft, it's super flexible. It's pretty much just straight up Flyknit. So it does have that sock-like sensation on your feet. And as far as how the collar feels wrapping around your ankle, honestly, you just don't really notice it. It's not rough, it's not restrictive, there's no real support there. It's just an extra piece of material that would normally be a sock, if I'm completely honest, depending on how long of a sock you normally wear. So again, it's not something that impacts the feel or performance of the shoe in any way at all. It's kind of just there for looks, if I'm completely honest with you guys. But the rest of the Flyknit upper is super soft, super flexible. And like I said, you can wear these with or without socks, depending on what your preferences are. And it's very, very comfortable both ways. As far as underfoot cushioning is concerned, it does have a significant amount of it. Because of these little etchings that you have along the side, the sole is quite thick, but it compresses a lot. It doesn't have a mushy sensation, but there's a very kind of plush softness underfoot that just feels very, very comfortable. But there's a significant amount of foam. I feel like I'm an inch or so taller wearing this shoe versus a regular pair of shoes just because of how thick the sole actually is. It's not unstable or anything like that, but again, this is a straight up running shoe, not really made for changes of direction. There's not a lot of traction just because there is no foam on the bottom of the sole, but again, very, very comfortable. It's hard to say whether or not those laser etchings are making any kind of a difference in terms of feel, because it doesn't feel too far off from other Lunarlon cushioned running shoes from Nike, but I will say that this does feel particularly plush out of the box in comparison to a lot of other Nike runners that I've personally tried. As far as the width is concerned, they're plenty wide. They're gonna fit just about anybody. So width, it's not something I would really concern myself. And as far as sizing is concerned, I went with my usual size 9.5 US. The Nike website does recommend going a half size up if you want a slightly roomier fit. I prefer my shoes to be a little bit more snug, so I did go true to size. And the fit is, as expected, pretty snug. So if you want that snug fit, I'd recommend going true to size, or if you do want something a little bit more roomy, mainly in the toe box forefoot area, I would recommend going a half size up. It's really personal preference at that point. You really can't go wrong either way. But for me, I just prefer the slightly more snug fit, which is why I went true to size. All right, guys, that's it for my review of the Nike LunarEpic Flyknit runners. If you guys are interested in a pair of these for yourself, be sure to check out the review page on my website. That'll be the very first link down below in the description of this video. On that page, you'll find the high quality images of this exact pair that I took myself that'll give you a better idea as to how they actually do look in person, as well as buy now links in all the currently available colorways. So again, if you're interested in a pair First link down below, go ahead and check it out. If you have any questions at all regarding the LunarEpic, leave them down below in the comments and I definitely will get an answer out to you. If you enjoyed today's video, found it helpful and informative, be sure to support it with a like. Subscribe if you haven't already for daily videos on all the latest and greatest soccer gear. You can find all my social media information linked in the description as well. And other than that, guys, hope you enjoyed today's video. And as always, thanks for watching.